Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Not Too Comic Book. This being a show where I talk about TV shows that are adaptations of comic books. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about the Season 1 finale of Batman Caped Crusader. Great season finale. A lot of really interesting things went down in this episode, so let's break it down. Well, first and foremost, we're picking up where the last episode left off. It is that continued through line with not only Thorn, but also Harvey and Barbara representing him, which I thought that was such an interesting conversation because it kind of plays into what I brought up last episode. It's like, oh, Harvey did murder people. Granted, he killed criminals, but that doesn't make it okay. Murder's still murder. So he doesn't think like, right, no one's going to really make me a deal. He's like, I don't deserve forgiveness. I did what I did. And for Barbara, it's like, yeah, but you are, once again, circumstances. You, like, might not have always been the best person, but you still did what you did, but that doesn't, you were a victim. Like, it was circumstances that made you into this. Like, you kind of had a psychotic break after being a victim of attack, and this was all Thorne's rebuttal to you. So, which Thorne made it clear, like, Dent has to go because it's like, well, he knows too much. He knows where the bodies are buried. Not just for Harvey, but a lot of powerful people need Harvey because he looked the other way with a lot of stuff. Once again, he knows where the bodies are buried, so. But Barbara convinces Harvey to take her, like, let her be his lawyer using his own coin. It's neat to know in this continuity he has. Because I don't think it's not always a trick coin. I think that depends on the continuity. Because I think I have seen some continuities with the trick coin of it's a two-headed coin. So, like, it always goes the way he wants it to. And it kind of gets used against him in this moment. But there are times where it's not, like, because sometimes Harvey is anal about that. Like, I forgot wasn't there a Batman something where, like, Bruce, like, messed with him, or Batman messed with Two-Face by, like, was it the Telltale's Batman game? I know, like, you can grab the coin and it messes up Harvey because he's like, what was it? Was it head? Was it tails? He never knows, and it, like, kind of messes with his head. I could have sworn there's something where Batman, like, beats him, or at least messes with him by, like, throwing out multiple coins. So he's like, I don't know which, like, outcome it's a real outcome because these are all these coins. Which one's my coin? So I don't know. Like I don't know. I'm curious how often it is a double-headed coin versus a real heads or tails coin. I mean, a regular coin. I'm curious how often that ends up being used for Two-Face. But I thought that was kind of beautiful and poetic. But yeah, like, he does go to Arkham, and there was that guy who wanted his stuff, like, Polly, and I was like, that might be a character. Obviously, anything pig related, my mind was like, it's like the way he's acting. I was like, definitely not a Professor Pig, not I'm aware of. But I was like, that probably is a wink and nod to a character. But it might have just also been a moment of showing, like, the humanity that Harvey has. And he was like, hey, this guy just wants his thing, so here. But all Harvey has to do is testify against Thorne, but he's not going to because he's just kind of like, right, like, who's going to make a deal like that with me? He knows because he's like, I deserve to rot. I would say that if I was on the opposite end of this, like, I wouldn't give me any favors. I'd throw the book at me because that's how I would typically approach this whole situation. But I wasn't expecting Flash and Bullock to kind of, like, straight up. I mean, someone was going to, but I guess it's like, right, why go through such trouble to get, like, extenuating hired help when you can just, like, kind of take care of it in-house to some extent? Like, you don't have to go too far out of hiring someone. Obviously you got your own goons to do it, which Flash and Bullock fall into that category. So, but I wasn't expecting them to handle it themselves. But I guess it's like, well, it shouldn't be too much of a surprise considering, like, the episode 4, the firebug of it all and everything. So, but I loved how he turned that on Bullock and Flash because he's like, oh, he's the one that's in charge? Oh, that's so interesting, Bullock. Let me guess. Anytime something dirty needs to get done, it's him, right? Like, you're the one that always has to do it, and he never has his fingerprints on anything. I'm like, it is interesting because the firebug of it all, it's like, well, that was a plug he filled. Phrasing. So it is interesting. Like, regardless of it, it did strike a chord with Bullock because later on he's like, yeah, it's time to, oh, I get it, dirty work. And you see that look on Flash's, but like, yeah, given enough time, I could definitely see Bullock turning on Flash too, because it's like, yeah, you're just waiting to throw the book. Like, a lot of stuff, because Bullock is the one that covered for him in episode 4, but like, oh, he got the pop on me, like Firebug. So it's like he's covered in that regard. Once again, he's the one that pulled the trigger on like I said, Firebug and everything. So it does all kind of point to him. So we will never know whether, I mean, there's always a future of what that could potentially turn into something, but for now, love Harvey playing the mind games, and I mean they're the best people to play mind games on like that. These two goons, because I mean, Flash was also probably annoyed because he saw that it was like, well, because Harvey was hitting the nail on the head, but luckily Barbara was following and was like, all right, come on, let's go. And Harvey's like, you don't have to go so far and beyond for me, just kind of go. And because he was like, no, like Thorne wants to come after me, he wants to get crazy, I can get crazy. And so she handcuffs herself to him, and it's like, yeah, Barbara's dead set on seeing this through because he is our client, and it's like, I'm not going to see you dead. I'm also not going to let you go off on some suicide mission. I'm going to make it so that you survive this night. So she ends up calling backup. First her dad, and then because I forgot to talk about it, her running into Bruce earlier in the episode. There's actually, I'm going to stop where I am because I want to backtrack to some stuff related to Bruce, which I thought was so interesting. First and foremost, when he showed up as Batman, and she's like, do I have a means of contacting you? I mean, like, you showing up is all fine and dandy, but there's no way. He's like, and he gave her a number. She's like, wait, you have a phone number? He's like, yeah, when I need one. And she's like, oh, I thought I had to put like a blue light outside the window and just disappear. So I'm like, well, I don't know if that's acknowledgement that we'll never get the bat signal in this, or maybe it's just going to take a while before we get there. I'm sure that might be Gordon's idea. Like I said, I think it's interesting how it's happening inverse, where it seems like Barbara is more of a fan of Batman. I mean, Gordon seems okay with Bruce, but with Batman, they don't have that relationship yet. But it does seem like maybe him and Barbara might have that. I mean, she is the one that gets closer to him in that regard, got his number on dial. I also love when she called, Alfred picked up the line, but I was like, I had to rewind it because I was like, is he doing an American accent? I think he is. I mean, I'm sure there's very few British people in Gotham, so you probably do have to be very careful about that, so you have to do like a generic American accent. I was like, oh, that's so interesting that he's doing that. I was like, but like I said, thinking about that, it makes a lot of sense. Like, you have a very distinct accent amongst a city that does not have that accent, so you don't want to stick out. But also, going back to Bruce really quickly, the conversation he had with Harvey about, because he had talked to Barbara about, like, no, keep going with Harvey. He might be a little, like, bit, but the fact of the matter is, at the end of the day, Harvey wants justice. And so, Bruce is talking to Harvey and apologizing. It's like, I'm sorry, I tried to make things as normal as possible, which there's give and take. Maybe there was a legitimacy of, hey, I am trying to help you, but I got so caught up in my mission that I lost sight of checking in on you, like making sure you actually were okay. Like, this what might have been initially hey, like, I want to make sure you're okay. Let's try to pretend like everything is normal. I mean, he might have fumbled that because people probably fumbled that around him too, when so many people tried to act like everything was normal and okay, walking on pins and needles around him after his parents died. So it's like, he gets that, and he knows what that can do to your psyche. But like I said, I do still believe, like, even if that was his intention from the beginning, he lost it part of the way through just because he got so intent of, like, justice, let me take down the bad guys, rather than, like, hey, be here for the victim. It's like, that's more his thing of, like, let me handle the bad guy rather than the person, because that's not really my cup of tea. But Bruce is trying to talk to him about, like, right, you gotta turn on these bad people. And I forgot what Harvey said, but then, like, Bruce kind of had a two-faced moment. He was like, don't grow a conscience now, Dit. And then he kind of, like, and just like his immediate, like, flip back over, he's like, he kind of, the mask slipped in that moment, which I was like, ooh, I really like that. I thought that was such a dope moment. Because it's like, yeah, like, don't try and, like, go a conscience now. It's like, you did some shady stuff beforehand. Don't try and be like, feel bad now and just be like, oh, I can't do it. Don't try and, like, beat yourself. Like, you looked the other way with some of the other crummy stuff. I believe, yes, you wanted to do, you still believed in justice. I don't know if that, because it almost makes you wonder, it's like, what Was he just so angry at that moment too? Because even Harvey was like, "Oh, sorry, I just get angry sometimes." I was like, "Yeah, Bruce is in that same manner." I love how that all kind of comes full circle in that regard, because it's like, yeah, like Harvey's got anger issues and he kind of snaps because it scared Barbara for a moment, but you see like Bruce is exactly the same way. He just feigns his anger, like he let it once again slip in episode 3, but he hasn't, like, he's tried to rein that in just so he doesn't want to be in another court-appointed situation. So especially considering what happened to your court-appointed therapist now, so that's a whole thing. But either way, Barbara and Harvey meet up with Gordon, Jim, I have to keep doing that, and Montoya and Batman. Only people they can she can rely on in this moment. But they're at like a dock. It's foggy. Flash and Bullock are there with some of Thorne's men, and it turns into a whole tussle. Bruce managed to just beat up some thugs, except for those two who were trying to shoot at him, and Bruce kind of inadvertently made them shoot each other. So I'm like, is that the first, like, once again, indirect kills by Batman? It's like, well, that was their fault. They're the ones firing off the guns. I shouldn't have to, hold responsibility for that. Oh my god, I also forgot it. I'm so sorry. I do apologize. Going back, I can't believe I forgot about that really dope conversation. Where it's like, once again, it's like Harvey thinks it's kind of like, you guys are crazy. It's the four of you in the grand tide of all of this. It's like, even if I turn on Thorne, even if I turn on all the people, half a city hall, it's not going to do anything because another monster is going to fill that seat up. It's an endless battle, so what's the point? But Bruce says, I don't want to hear that. You're going to testify, because he's like, when the world goes bad, you don't bend, you push back. You don't bend with it, you push back, So I love that line in particular, because because even once again, Harvey was like, I can't believe you're going so above and beyond for me, Barbara, and she's like, I've got to see this through. He's like, man, was I ever naive? And he's like, yeah, once upon a time I was, until I saw the reality of things, of kind of like, right, that naivety, that optimism won't get you far in this world, because you kind of see how ugly, he got to see how ugly Gotham really is. And then it's like, yeah, that's why he has such a pessimistic view of like, there is no changing it. You can't change Gotham. And maybe on some level, once again, her words kind of got thrown thrown at her, like, oh, is that what you mean, that Gotham's beyond saving? And she even said, that's not what I was saying, because she doesn't believe that. But maybe on some level, there's some parts of her just kind of like, there's so much rooted in Gotham that it's hard to really shake that darkness. Harvey was willing to say, like, hey, let me go. They're only after me. You shouldn't have to die for me. But Barbara's like, I'm not going to die tonight, and neither are you. I mean, to be fair, it's like, you can't trust Harvey, because there's no telling, like, given an opportunity, he would have just gone steam full ahead. Like, if he managed to get away, he would have just gone after Thorne. So it's like, no. But also, like, there is a part of him that probably he probably would have sacrificed himself, because he does later on. So either way, Barbara wasn't going to take that chance, and it's like, we're going to see this through. I wasn't expecting things to play out the way they did. Yeah, he got shot, and yeah, he's bleeding, but I was like, well, they can get him to a hospital or whatever. Gordon was able to stop Bullock, but sadly, Flash got shots off on Harvey, and it's like, damn. Which is kind of like, wow. I mean, once again, they killed Firebug, but still, you're like, Two-Face? This universe doesn't have Two-Face. And that Harvey Dent died a pseudo-hero, I think, is kind of interesting, considering everything. That even in the end, he tried to, because even Barbara's like, why did you protect me? And Harvey's like, I don't know. I think it's just because he started to believe that, yeah, the tide might be massive, but like trying to do the right thing, because like, right, they didn't always get along, but for him, he sees the idealism, and I think in his mind, it's like, right, Barbara's an innocent person. She doesn't deserve to die. I might be in my state of mind. I might be battling these two sides of myself. But, at the end of the day, I had that conversation last episode about like, oh, maybe one side does win out. In this particular case, Harvey did win out and not Two-Face. And he sacrificed himself for her sake. Does it make up for everything he did? No. But at the end, even Bruce says, like, no, I kind of saw something there at the end, which even Alfred tries to make him feel better, being like, you and Harvey are not the same. Like, he got consumed by his ambition and lost his humanity. You still have it. He's like, I see it more and more every day, Master Bruce. But the fact is, you have friends, or in your own way, sort of having friends, you know? But yeah, Batman picking up the gun from Flash and pointing it at him, and he's like, whoa, 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 I was a cop, it was a good kill, and he start pulling the trigger. I mean, I know Bruce has shot and killed someone in the comics, but that was like extenuating circumstances, and it almost feels like this is supposed to be kind of like this was written well in advance, because it's just Batman in general, but it almost feels like it parallels that conversation a while back. You know, the whole, like, you know, people took the whole Zack Snyder's perspective on like Batman that kills conversation, and you know, obviously the nerd side of the internet had their response to that. So, not saying that this is a direct rebuttal to that, but I think it just, once again, it just happens to come out like, I mean, that was like, what, months ago? Was that this year or was that last year? Time blurs. Time is such a construct. But I'm like, I don't actually remember if that might have been last year, because it was a couple months ago. But, or maybe that was this year. I don't remember. It might have been this year. I don't remember. It doesn't matter. The point remains, like, it wasn't, this was well written in advance. This was all like already in advance. So I just think it's just kind of showcasing like Batman, like Bruce pulling the trigger, but he missed Flash the entire time. And it's just kind of like I'm not going to do that. Like, I'm angry in this moment, but I'm not going to let my anger control me. It's like, and just like him knocking Flash out and looking at the gun, being frustrated and throwing it in the ocean, because it's just like, right, it's just guns. It's like, I don't use them for a reason, because it's so easy to pick them up out of anger and use them. But it's like, no, I'm not going to be, you know, I'm going to fight for justice, and I'm going to do it my way, and I'm going to do it without becoming the monster that took away my family. The monsters are in this city. I'll be a monster in my own way. That I'll be the Dark Knight for this city to protect it from its monsters. And in the mobsters' eyes, I will be a monster for the monsters. But I won't cross that line to become like them in the process. That's how you win in the end. It's not becoming them. So... But yeah, like I said, I was kind of shocked that they killed Two-Face. Once again, this thing's its own continuity. It doesn't have to adhere to anyone. It is kind of sad knowing in this continuity there won't be a Two-Face going forward. But there's also something dope about that being how Harvey's story ended. Like him sacrificing himself. Once again, very like noir-esque. I mean, it feels even very Western-esque to that type of storytelling of like, yeah, the person you're trying to defend like dies, you know? But they try to do something heroic in the end. Like, you know... feels more noirish than like when I'm saying Western, but I feel like there's Westerns that have kind of used that aspect as well. But yeah, it's kind of sad, because obviously for Bruce too, it feels like I failed again, because I'm sure like Harvey dying also makes him think of, I mean, that's probably what pissed him off in that moment. It just brought him back to the trauma of his parents, and it's just kind of like, damn, like I couldn't do anything then, and I tried to do something now, and I still couldn't do anything. But going back to the Bruce and Alfred conversation about like, right, the odds are stacked against us, 4 of us against, you know, this coming tide. He's like, I don't like my odds. Those aren't good odds, but I'll still take them. And I like that. I like to know that like the Dick for mayor is going to be like forever in the Batcave type of thing. I thought that was kind of, because we haven't really gotten, obviously it's not the more, you know, dinosaur giant penny situation, but I thought that was kind of a nice like, well, because he has his, like, trophies from, like, related to villains and stuff like that, and that being kind of something related. Because it's a reminder of to keep this fight going, that even someone who was lost in the darkness, who had lost their way and strayed, kind of did something heroic in the end, wasn't completely lost, that there's still light out there to be found in this darkness. So he made a statement to Thorn by throwing a batarang, being like, yeah, you've been marked by the bat, like, I got my eye on you, I will find a way to take you down. So we will be seeing more of Thorn in the future. So but we have our little stinger at the end where we get what appears to be this universe's Joker, which once again, that's going to be so fascinating considering we already have our Harley before we have our Joker. Obviously he's always messed with like chemicals to make people like die of laughter and stuff like that, but it's going to be interesting we didn't get the laugh, so it's probably going to be a different take on Joker. Because even the one I keep going back to it all the time, because it's like it's such a remix of like the Lord stuff, but would be like the Batman, the introduction of John Doe, who would eventually become Joker. Like he has a lot of Joker isms, but like that was a really different take on the Joker. So I don't think we're going Arthur Fleck, from the Joker movies take with this, but I'm curious to see what take it's going to be. Like I said, it's so interesting to know, like, he does chemicals and stuff like that, but it's like, oh, never took you as, like, the chemist type. Like, it's so interesting because I sometimes don't think about the fact is that he is, like, yeah, he messes with chemicals that kill people. So it's like, he has to have, I mean, I guess you have any rudimentary, like, understanding of chemicals. It's not that crazy, but it's still kind of interesting. I never think about that sometimes. I am curious to see, like I said, what take they're going to have with this Joker. Like, is he going to be like your Prince of Crime? Like, are they going to bother giving him a backstory in this? Or are they going to do the more Joker fashion, more typical Joker fashion of let's not get too caught up in the details, like, who he is and stuff like that, and what does that mean for his and Harley's dynamic in this? Like, what does that relate? How does that relationship work out, considering where Harley was and what her go-to approach to all of this is? Like, maybe, like, for whatever reason, the Joker, like, breaks her mentally and changes her more into the more traditional Harley we know. But, like, I don't know, like, that dynamic is going to be so interesting to see if they tackle that next season or not. I should also talk about the fact is I was completely wrong thinking like, yeah, Bullock would have his come to Jesus moment. I mean, not unless they could have that in the future, but I'd assume not. But we'll see whether he just stays like a pure scumbag or whether they have a turnaround where it's like, no, he actually is a good guy now and he has his redemption arc next season. But for now, it seems like, nah, he never had this come to Jesus moment. We'll see if that's something they deal with. I was kind of certain he was going to have one by the end, but nope. It just... If he ever had any moments, like I brought up earlier, it would just be like a self-preservation thing of, well, Flash could always turn me, like, point everything at me because I'm doing a handle or dirty work, which is ironic considering, like, he's the one that actually pull the trigger on Harvey. But it could also be a thing of, well, he's able to kind of get himself a good, cushy deal. It'd be kind of interesting if he gets represented by Barbara or something, because, like, getting a deal cut on, like, well, he knows enough about Thorn. He didn't know as much as Harvey did, but he knows enough to turn everything on Flash and Thorn, so that could be his situation next season if they go down that route, but we'll see. And yet the show is already coming back for a second season. I believe, and someone could correct me, I think it was already greenlit for season 1 and 2. I'd heard that recently. I only knew about a season 1, but because what I was looking at, it's like, oh, season 2 is already in work, so I think it was already greenlit for 1 and 2. So that means the turnaround will be a little shorter, so we won't have to wait as long. I'd assume we'd be. I mean, it could be longer, but I'd assume because it was already in works, we're going to get it a little sooner. But animation does take a while, so because it has taken a while for this to come out, because it's been in development for a while, but they've had a bigger start, like I mean, depends on if the scripts are done or not, before they even tackle the animation. So, like I said, because the example I think about is like My Adventures with Superman. That turnaround was like a year. So maybe we'll get in the same, because it was in a similar situation. It already was like a season 1, season 2 greenlit thing. So either way, I'm really excited to see what the future holds for Caped Crusader. I'm excited to see what villains return next season. What new villains we get, and also, I forgot about the biggest thing too, and talking about everything coming full circle, that this whole journey created this arc for Bruce where he is starting to change, and what those changes look like going forward is going to be interesting, because I noted this in the first episode, and it kept popping in here and there, but he says, thank you, Alfred. Thank you, Alfred. And it's like, right. So changing their dynamic too. So that's, once again, it's going to be interesting to see that kind of develop. Like I said, I think his perspective on as Bruce Wayne is going to be a little different going forward, maybe, but also his approach as Batman, and just, once again, because he hasn't always handled, like, even though, like I said, he hasn't always handled things that needed a Bruce Wayne touch the best way, because sometimes he handled the Bruce Wayne situations as a Batman situation, because those lines blurred so much, and I'm wondering if, like, he's going to have that line drawn even more that line drawn between the two more figured out and figure out more of what he wants to do as Bruce Wayne. Because we got a little Bruce Wayne this season, but we didn't get a lot. So maybe next season we get a little bit more Bruce Wayne see and how he handles a lot of stuff better as Bruce Wayne, kind of recognizing the power of Bruce Wayne versus the power of Batman in some capacities, even more so. So it's going to be interesting to see, like I said, what the next season has in store for us. But really, that's all I wanted to talk about. Till the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day and goodbye.